G'day guys, what's going on? Welcome back to Dug My Nose. Today you've seen the title of the video, so before we get started, can you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. If you don't want to see when I release a new video, then don't get the bell on. If you do, then turn the notification bell on. Just subscribing to the channel makes me feel good anyway, so do that. And drop a comment with your thoughts just based on the title of the video. Now, this is a follow-up to a couple of videos I made a little while back on Coon cheese being shamed into changing their name. So there's a article someone sent me here from the Age, so I'm just going to read through it, react to it. Now, in the other videos, we went through sort of my thoughts on Coon cheese and where the name obviously came from. I think it was Richard Edward Coon or something. Anyway, as an American cheese ripening pioneer. Now, anyway, the name is no longer acceptable in this day and age, so they've agreed to change it. Kraft, the company that own and produce Coon cheese, have agreed they're changing the name. And I'm just going to read this article. So it is titled, "Indigenous people should have been consulted on the new Coon cheese name." A man who pushed for 21 years to have Coon cheese renamed, saying the label was racist, is disappointed Indigenous people weren't consulted about the product's new name. So they've changed the name to Cheer cheese. Now, if that's not a good example of a terrible name picked by a focus group, then I don't know what is. But anyway, Cheer cheese. But that's not good enough because it's not inclusive enough to Indigenous people. Author and anti-racism activist Stephen Hagen said he was glad and relieved that the cheese manufacturers announced the name change on Wednesday to take effect in July, as he would no longer have to see the word coon, a derogatory term for black person, every time he went to the supermarket. Dr. Hagen is not sure what the new name Cheer stands for. He's not sure what the new name stands for. "I would have liked it to have something a bit more inclusive for the First Nations people," he said. "We weren't even consulted on names. We would have liked to have contributed." Cam Bruce, the commercial director of Coon's owners, Saputo Dairy Australia, said consumer research had helped decide the name, which is meant to signify happiness. Dr. Hagen is pursuing legal damages of $2.1 million for what he says has been 21 years of corporations undermining his claims that the cheese's brand name was not named after American cheesemaker Edward William Coon. Dr. Hagen argues that the Coon cheese instead started with Kraft Red Coon cheese in 1931, which used a different ripening method than the one pioneered by Edward William Coon. Someone else pointed out to me not long ago that would be like Nikola Tesla's descendants, if he had any, suing Tesla for using the name and not making their cars with the same technology that he was using in the early 1900s or whenever he was doing his thing. But anyway, so he's arguing that Kraft, they went out of their way to name this cheese Coon to be racist, basically, and that's worth $2.1 million in damages. So he believes Coon was instead named after a racial slur. In announcing the new name on Wednesday, the Canadian Chair-in-Chief of Saputo Dairy Australia's parent company said the company wanted to align with current attitudes and perspective. "Treating people with respect and without discrimination is one of our basic principles, and it is imperative that we continue to uphold this in everything we do. Our decision to change the name reinforces this commitment to build a culture of acceptance, inclusion and respect where everyone feels a sense of belonging." Anyway. Alright. Not going to keep going, but so Cheer cheese, it's pretty, yeah, anyway. it's a bit of a silly name, I think. But most names that have come up like through consumer research and focus groups tend to be. Dr. Hagen, there's going over points I made in the last video, but there are so many issues in Aboriginal communities in Australia with alcoholism, drug abuse, homelessness, domestic violence, school, like education issues, and I just don't understand that Coon cheese is really worth this much attention. But that being said, even if it was named after a racial slur, right, my stance on free speech is like fair play to them. If that's what they want to do, everyone, like, you don't have a right not to see things that offend you. So if they wanted to name it like that other derogatory term, cheese, then they have a right to do that, in my opinion. And then everyone who's offended by that has a right to not buy the cheese, and that would be commercial suicide. I do have to say that Dr. Hagen, I have a sort of, can't help but having a certain respect for people that can game the system. And if he can somehow win $2.1 million in damages for having to see Coon cheese at the supermarket, I actually think in a way that's brilliant. As long as, because he cares so much, as long as he donates it all to Aboriginal charities, then I would have to take my hat off to him if he can pull that off. Anyway, so that's it. Racism is solved, but it's not. Yeah. Anyway, that tends to be a running theme that you give an inch, give people what they say they want, but then we should have consulted them on the name. So everyone, if you're thinking of starting a business or a cheese brand, make sure you consult everyone, every minority, get input from every ethnic group, and then you'll probably come up with a name that makes no sense and will still offend someone. Anyway, if you like the video, give it a like, consider subscribing to the channel, drop a comment with your thoughts, and we will see you very soon. Cheers guys, have a good one.